All right, guys, Instructor Z here, tactical rifleman and InstructorZ.com. So we've got another target. We do a drill in our pistol courses, Carl and I, called the trigger isolation drill. We got it from a doc friend of mine that knows what he's talking about and works with our school that trains for Special Forces Advanced Urban Combat, right? So we got the Haselhuhn handgun trigger finger isolation drill. You do this at 3 yards. We used to use 4 pasties, so I figured we'd just make a target where you don't have to stick pasties up on, and you shoot them off sometimes anyway, but 4 1-inch by 1-inch squares. So the first square, we're gonna use our primary hand, right? We're gonna use a modified grip though, guys. So the grip is, I'm gonna have a high thumb to support that pistol. I'm gonna use this middle finger just to pull straight back into the web of that thumb, right? I'm gonna relax these 2 bottom fingers. Now some people do it like this with just the little pinky sticking up like you're fancy. And some people can relax both pretty easily. What I don't want is you giving extra stress by extending those fingers. That's adding some stress to the fingers. Just relax them somehow and hold it just here. So I want to minimize any negative input that I might give the gun with my grip or these 3 amigos here, and then let the trigger finger do all the work. So the idea here is I want a perfect sight picture to be able to stack 10 rounds in square one. All right, stack 10 rounds, put them in the same spot every time. If I had a perfect sight picture and I missed to the left or right of square one, all right, that tells me, well, I had a perfect sight picture. When I pressed that trigger back, I must have disrupted my sight somehow. So either I yanked that trigger, but it also in my mind I would know, did I go to the wall? Did I feel the creep? Did I have a good trigger press straight back? Yes, I did. Well, is it my trigger finger placement? Is it too far removed outside of the trigger? Is it too deep? Is it hooking it, making the barrel go one direction or the other, right? Am I pushing it flat enough? Is the right part of my finger that helps me push or press that trigger straight back and flatly, is it on the trigger right now? So for you guys that don't have a regular spot and you're having problems being very accurate, pinpoint accuracy at this distances, it could be because of your trigger press. So let's diagnose that. Let's zero that trigger finger, so to speak, and see where you're hitting. All right, so what we're gonna do is, I got Carl shooting here. He's gonna start out with his conventional grip, and what he's gonna do is just drop that support hand. All right, he's putting up his support hand so it's not gonna be swinging, causing any disruption of the sights or anything going on here. I want him to relax these 2 using just that middle finger and raising and flagging that thumb and pressing into the meat of his hand with that thumb in order to control that gun. We're not worried about recoil here, obviously, because we're not shooting multiple times, 1 shot at a time. Now Carl's gonna place his finger on the trigger where he wants it, trying to get a perfect sight picture on box 1, and he's gonna go to the wall, feel the creep, and then press through when he's ready. All right, so we can see that Carl hit where he wanted to. So he had a great sight picture, I assume. Only he will know that if he had a good sight picture. Now, if he shoots and misses because of a sight picture.
You want me to miss?
Yeah. So if Carl shoots this way, he's a little left of the box here, but Carl knows in his head when he pressed that trigger.
I pulled that 9 o'clock on.
He's seen that his sights wasn't aligned properly at that point in time for whatever reason. So he knows that he doesn't need to adjust anything here. He just needs to make sure his sights are lined up perfectly and repeat the process. Right back in the square. Now, as you can see, if Carl's finger, he's deeper than what I put my finger. So if he started shooting that way and he was pulling the gun to the right, so if he's right or a little low like that, and he knows he had a perfect sight picture, it's a little low, so he could have anticipated, he could have heeled the gun a little bit. But if it's generally left or right windage adjustments that we want, it could be the placement of the trigger finger. Could it be too short, too shallow? Could it be too deep? Which would cause the muzzle to go one way or the other, depending on how he's pulling it. He does a good job of pressing straight back, but if he was hooking it,
If I was doing what?
Hooking it towards you.
I'll go a little too deep.
A little too deep and hook it. Right? Y'all think he still had a good shot though. It's just some people just can't help but shoot good.
I'm sorry.
Right? So if he goes too shallow, go all the way out and press in and give it a little extra, right?
Like we're way off to the
So
side.
he's pressing in from the outside, too shallow on the trigger finger here, so he's hitting left. And if he knows, in his mind, I had a perfect sight picture, but when I pressed that trigger through, it went left. That's because he pushed the trigger. He pushed the barrel to the left.
Front of the gun wants to go to the left.
Right? So let's shoot one more call perfectly where you want it, where you think you will hit, where you want to be. All right, he's right back in the square. Now we do 5 to 10 shots here with the primary hand, and then we're gonna go to the support hand. All right, so here Carl has switched to his support side hand, his non-dominant side. Now we're not doing this practice with the support hand because we want him to work on a hand injury of his primary hand. This is only because of the bilateral transfer concept, meaning that his brain is connected to both his hands, and he has a lot of practice and skill developed with his primary hand. So he might not take into account all the small, minute adjustments as well with that primary hand, but when he puts his support hand, his less confident side hand on here, he's really gonna think about it, be more detailed, and think about the small adjustments that he makes, and it's gonna go into his brain and help him realize this concept even more so. So he's gonna release these bottom two, relax them a little bit, pulling in with the middle finger, flagging that thumb up into the meat, having his trigger finger where he thinks it's perfect for him, right? And he's gonna go double the amount of rounds he did with the primary hand. All right, so primary side, he did 5. This one he's gonna do 10, and he's really gonna have to think about exactly where he is, and he's gonna take the time to adjust accordingly because he knows he's not as confident and skilled with this side. So Carl, let me get one in the center.
I'm at the wall right now.
He hit a little low. And this is what I find with my support side is I tend to anticipate a little bit more. Maybe that's what it was, so let's see. Right in there. Now, same thing here. If Carl was missing to the left and right, but he knew he had a bad sight picture, then he would simply repeat the process, not change anything here, just line his sights up better. Shoot another one. Right, he's hitting perfectly exactly where he wants. He's gonna try to shoot, he's gonna try to stack bullets here the whole time. If he wasn't familiar, see Carl does this all the time. He knows how to shoot with his support side hand. He practices it, and he practices reloads and draws and whatnot with it. So he's pretty confident here. If he wasn't familiar with this hand and he was pushing that trigger or pulling that trigger, he would make that adjustment by adjusting the depth of his trigger finger, thinking about pressing straight back versus hooking or pushing in, right? Make that very visible inside his brain as he's working through it, which is, you do it a lot more using your support side, and then he would continue to shoot and correct that problem. Again, we'll shoot one more. And he stacked the bullets perfectly, relax. All right, so that's what we want, guys.
And then 2 hands.
Right. You got 10? So 10 rounds perfectly. Now that Carl has went with one hand 5 shots, then he switched to his non-dominant hand 10 shots, back to the primary hand for 5 more. Now let's put it all together, and now when he comes together, he's gonna be thinking like, do not let these bottom fingers, show me your hand, Carl. We don't wanna let these bottom fingers get involved. He's letting the meat do the work and his trigger finger be zeroed, so to speak, now because he knows exactly where he wants it. Good shooting, Carl. Finish up with 10, please. Stack them.
I'm a little off.
All right, guys, he went a little fast and realized there's no time limit to this, right? As long as you need to get a perfect sight picture and have as close to perfect trigger press as you can, so you can really come to grips in your mind where my trigger finger goes every time, and hopefully you develop a habit of putting it in that same spot every time you go to shoot, whether it's cold start drills, whether it's fast firing or whatever. My finger goes to that same spot, it presses straight back. You're developing those habits, and you're actually starting from 0, so you know exactly where my finger should be to get the exact hits that I want. Because think about this, guys, if I'm missing left and right at 3 yards on this 1 by 1 inch square, At 25 yards, that's magnified, right? That's getting a little bit bigger. All of the problems are all the bad negative input that you're giving that gun as you're shooting, despite the perfect sight picture or bad sight picture or whatever, is going to be magnified at distance, right? So make it perfect here, 3 yards, like Carl's target looks. Take the time, think about where your trigger finger is. You'll see it's strenuous on the mind a little bit, makes you focus it. And really, for what I've seen, Carl, even though it's not really intended for that, I see that people really come to grips with their anticipation problem as well. Because even when you're a good shooter, this drill makes you want to anticipate sometimes because you're so slow doing it. I'm not used to shooting that slow. And I got to really take my time and like, all right, I'm at the wall, I'm at the creep. Don't jump it, don't jump it. Press through, press through. It is hard. So it really works your anticipation, right? It helps you maintain that consistency of not anticipating and just letting the bullet go off and hit where you got those sights and lines. So give it a try, guys. It'll be downloadable on instructorz.com. Carl's gonna put it on Tactical Rifleman. And keep tuning in, guys. Every Friday we'll have a video for you. Making sure you check out Instagram, Facebook, see the classes we got coming up. And we'll definitely be doing this in our pistol class. We do it all the time, so
Zero
check it
that
out.
trigger finger. Thanks, C.